Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to learn how to solve one of the Hackerrank problems called as Angry Professor. So first, let's go to the problem statement and try to understand what the problem says. The problem states that a discrete mathematics professor has a class of students. So there are some students present in the class. Frustrated with the lack of discipline, he decides to cancel class if fewer than some number of students are present when class starts. Basically saying, if you have n number of students, we require some minimum strength to be present at the beginning of the class. If in case if those number of students are not there, then we are going to cancel the class. And the arrival time for all the participants are given as integer values. Anybody who has come before time or on time, the input value will be negative or 0. People coming late will have an input value which is greater than 0. Your task is to, given the number of students and the threshold number of attendees, you need to determine if the class will be cancelled or the class will continue. Right. Now let us try to understand with some input. Now assume that the class strength is 6 and then this is the entry time given. The first person enters at -1, meaning 1 minute before the class starts. Second person also enters at -1. Third and fourth people just enter on time, and fifth and sixth people enter a bit late. Now, if the threshold is 4, since there are already 4 people available in the class at the time of beginning of the class will continue. But for the same input, if the threshold is 5, meaning minimum we require 5 people, then the class will not be continuing because there are only 4 people present in the class. I hope the problem is understood. Okay, we will take one more example to understand this particular problem. Fine. So I hope the input is quite clear, that we will be specifying the total class strength and what is the threshold required, which is also called as the minimum number required for the class to be conducted, and the arrival time of all the students. Now what is to be done? We need to count the number of students at the beginning of the class. How many people are present at the beginning of the class, right? And what do you do? Students at the beginning of class is less than threshold, class to be cancelled, otherwise class to continue. Now let's take this input. There are 10 students and assume the threshold is 5 and this is the input. So the first person comes at 9 minutes before time, second person comes at 8 minutes before time, the third person comes 4 minutes late, fourth person 6 minutes before, 1 minute before, 3 minutes before, and 4 minutes late, 7 minutes late, 1 minute late, and 6 minutes late. So this information will also be put up into a graph so that we can understand things better. So we need to only consider the people who are before time or on time. We should not consider about the people who are coming late. Now this should match up with, at this one, the people who are coming before time should at least be equal to or greater than threshold. Now if the threshold is 5, yes, we do have 5 people, the class will continue, it will not cancel. But if the threshold was changed from 5 to 6, if the threshold is changed from 5 to 6, right, then this class, if there is anything which is other than 5, let us say it is 6, then the class will be cancelled because we only have 5 people at the beginning of the class. Now let's try to solve this particular problem in C language. First, I have written the code to first read the inputs. The first input is the total strength of the class. Then the next input is what is the threshold, and then the entry time of the students. Now our job is to count the number of people present in the class at the beginning of the class. For this, I would like to write a separate function. I would like to write a function name as count on time. This function's job is to count the number of people who are present in the class at the beginning of the class. I will be passing 2 arguments for this. One is the array which contains the entry time, and then the another one is the number of elements. Because in C, the arrays do not carry its own size. We need to explicitly pass what is the size of the array. So we will just try to write this. Right. Now, what we need to do out here is we need to scan all the elements of an array. In order to scan all the elements of an array one by one, I'll just try to run a loop which traverses all the elements. And here I need to check with every element, are they before time or are they late? So how do I check if they are before time or late? If the entry is less than 0, it means they are before time. If the entry is equal to 0, it means they are on time. So either it is less than 0 or it is equal to 0. Okay, we need to consider them that okay, they are on time. So we would like to increment the count variable. Right? The count basically is a variable which keeps track of the number of people present in the class at the beginning of the class. So now once I traverse the entire loop, I'll have the total number of people who are present in the class at the beginning of the class, or in simple terms, the number of negative values and zeros in the array. So when I'll try to return the count value, a small modification here, count should be equal to 0. Fine. Okay. Now I'll get the result here. This is the number of people who are present in the class at the beginning of the class. So if you want, you can just, okay, after receiving it for verification, if you want, you can print number strength at the start of class. Right? What is the strength at the start of class? So start of class, it is the count value. Now I need to decide the class will be cancelled or not. If the strength is less than k, which is a threshold, class will be cancelled. Else, class will not be cancelled. Right? That's it. Nothing else. Return 0 as a standard from the main. Perfect. Let's try to compile this and try to observe if it's working fine or do we have any modifications to be done. Okay. There is a problem out here. It says that comparison between pointer and integer. Here I have done a small mistake. Here I was supposed to write n, not arrival time. Right? Okay. Changes done. Compile it. Let us try to run this. Now let's try to take the first input, what we saw in Hackerrank problem statement there. So we had a strength of 6, then the threshold, let us assume there's 4, and then we'll try to take the same input what we saw there, -1, 0, 0, 1 and 1. Remember, here there are 4 people who are present in the class at the beginning of the class, right? Okay, so the class will continue, it will not be cancelled, right? You can just see strength at the class start of class is 4 and class will not be cancelled, right? Okay, now with the same input, if you try to run this and say the threshold is 5, same 6, threshold is 5 and the same entry time, right? The strength is 4, but since the threshold is 5, the class will be cancelled. Fine. So let's try to take up another input. Let us assume that the number of students is 10. Then let us try to keep the threshold as 5, and then we will try to give the input as -9, -8, 4, -6, -1, -3, 4, 7, 1 and 6. How many? What is the strength? At the beginning it's 5, and since it is matching with the minimum strength, the class will not be cancelled. Remember, if the threshold was much more than 5, then the class would have been cancelled for the same input. So let us re-verify this. So assume that this threshold is 7, and if I just give you the same input out here, right, strength is same, but class will be cancelled because threshold was more. I hope everything is clear. If you want, you can just have a look at the code once more. So this is the main task. is to count the number of people who are present in time. This is the main task. The next task is, once we get to know how many people are there, we need to check out it is greater than threshold or less than the threshold. Now let us try to take this particular code and put it into Hackerrank environment. Let me just copy this. Let me go to Hackerrank there and let me just try there. Yeah, before we place this code in the Hackerrank, we need to understand one small thing out here. It says that the first line of input contains T, the number of test cases. So it is not going to test one test case at one time, it's going to test with multiple test cases. Like for example, if you just observe this sample input, it says that the first line is 2 in the sense he's trying to verify two things. One is, okay, first with the first input, he's going to pass the strength and the minimum required 4 and 3, and then the entry time we need to print yes, okay, because the class will be cancelled because there are only 2 people and then the threshold is 3. Second, again he's trying to give once more, he's going to say that okay, the same 4 is the total strength, 2 is the threshold, and 2 people are present, so it says that class will not be cancelled. And observe that the messages to be printed is yes if the class is cancelled, no if the class is not cancelled, and plus we should also take care of this particular information. Now let's just try to paste this code here. After we paste the code, then let us try to comment things which are not required. This input is not required. The print messages not required. This print message is not required. And then if the class is cancelled, we need to print yes. And if the class is not cancelled, we need to print no along with the new line. Right? Okay. Then it says that we need to perform this T number of times. So first we need to read the number of test cases. So the printf is not required, so you can just write the scanf to read the number of test cases here. Let's declare this variable before, right? And then we need to run a loop for T number of times. While T minus minus, right? Simple. What does this do? Assume if T is 2, the first time we're going to check out 2, it is non-zero value, and then we'll decrement, but you enter the loop. Second time T is 1, so 1 is again non-zero, we enter the loop. But after the third time when you come, T is already 0, so we don't enter the loop. This is what it does. Or you could use a for loop if you want. Fine. We need to indent everything for better clarity. But we'll try to run this code first and see if this is working. Perfect. Now let's try to submit this code. Fine, done. All the test cases passed. In the next session, we will be learning how do we solve the same problem using C++, wherein we are also trying to learn some of the C++ concepts. We'll try to redo the same problem in a little bit different way in the next session. Thank you.